Admiral Theron sat in his command chair aboard the Kavresh flagship Eternal Glory, staring at the display screen with growing irritation. The sensor readings made no sense. None at all. "Run the diagnostic again," he ordered, his scaled fingers drumming against the armrest. "These numbers cannot be correct." The junior officer at the sensor station worked quickly, his hands shaking slightly. After a moment, he turned back to the Admiral, with fear in his eyes. "Sir, the diagnostics confirm the readings are accurate. There is a vessel approaching from the outer rim. Its energy signature, unprecedented." Theron rose from his seat and walked to the main display. The Kavresh Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. In that time, they had encountered 47 different species, cataloged thousands of worlds, and maintained absolute dominance through superior technology inherited from the ancient precursors. Nothing surprised them anymore. Nothing should surprise them. Yet here was something impossible. "Show me the timeline," Theron commanded. The display changed, showing data collected over the past 3 months. A new species had been detected in a remote spiral arm of the galaxy. Initial probes identified them as humans from a world they called Earth. Standard procedure suggested they were centuries away from achieving faster-than-light travel. The Kavresh had made preliminary notes and filed them away for future contact, perhaps in another 1,000 years. But 3 months later, this vessel appeared. Somehow, impossibly, humanity had achieved what took most species 5,000 years to develop. They had done it in mere centuries. "What class of vessel is it?" Theron asked. The sensor officer hesitated. "Our computer cannot classify it properly, sir. The mass suggests a Dreadnought-class warship, but the dimensions are wrong. It is too large. The energy output exceeds our theoretical maximums by a factor of 7. And the readings we are detecting, our database, has no match for them." Theron felt a chill run down his spine, something he had not experienced in decades of military service. "Impossible. Show me the visual." The screen shifted to display an enhanced image of the human vessel. It was massive, easily twice the size of the Eternal Glory. Its hull was dark, almost black, with strange geometric patterns across its surface. No decorative elements, no proud emblems of conquest. It looked purely functional, built for a purpose that Theron could not identify. "It is heading directly toward our core systems," another officer reported. "Current trajectory will bring it to the capital world within 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Theron snapped. "Faster than any recorded vessel in galactic history, sir. Their faster-than-light drive operates on principles we cannot identify. This was unacceptable. A species that should be primitive, barely worthy of attention, had somehow leaped ahead of established galactic civilization. They were approaching Kavresh space in a vessel that made their most powerful warships look weak. "Assemble the patrol fleet," Theron ordered. "We will intercept them at the border. I want 12 ships, full combat readiness. If these humans pose a threat, we will eliminate them before they penetrate any deeper into our territory." The bridge crew moved quickly to execute his orders. Within an hour, 12 Kavresh warships had assembled and jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing to intercept the unknown human vessel. Theron returned to his command chair, his mind racing through possibilities. Perhaps the humans had discovered a precursor cache, stumbled upon ancient technology they did not fully understand. That would explain the sudden leap. It would also make them dangerous, unpredictable. Species that found technology they had not earned rarely used it wisely. "Sir, we are receiving additional data from our deep space monitoring stations," the communications officer announced. "The human vessel is broadcasting on standard diplomatic frequencies. They are requesting peaceful contact and negotiation." "Diplomatic?" Theron laughed bitterly. "They approach in a warship larger than anything in our fleet and claim peaceful intentions? Do they think we are fools? What should we transmit in response, sir?" Theron considered for a moment. Protocol dictated courtesy. At least initially. The Kavresh Empire prided itself on civilized behavior. But caution was also necessary. Inform them that they must halt at the border and submit to inspection. Standard quarantine procedures for new species. If they refuse or show any hostile intent, the patrol fleet has authorization to defend Kavresh space by any means necessary. 4. Yes, sir. As the message was sent, Theron pulled up everything available about humanity. The information was sparse. They were a bipedal species, relatively young, living on a medium-sized world in an unremarkable system. Their planet had an unusually high gravity compared to most inhabited worlds. Their atmosphere was rich in oxygen, which made it mildly toxic to many galactic species. They had only unified their world within the last century, after thousands of years of constant warfare. That last detail caught Theron's attention. Thousands of years of warfare? Most species achieved peace and unity long before developing advanced technology. The Kavresh themselves had been unified for 15,000 years, their violent past a distant memory. What kind of species fought for so long, and then suddenly achieved faster than light travel? Sir, the patrol fleet reports they will reach the intercept coordinates in 6 hours, the tactical officer announced. Good. I want continuous sensor feeds. If that human ship so much as charges a weapon, I want to know immediately. Theron settled back into his chair, watching the display as the human vessel continued its steady approach. Somewhere, aboard that ship, humans were making their way toward first contact with galactic civilization. Did they understand the fear they were causing? Did they realize how impossible their existence seemed? Or were they truly peaceful, simply unaware of how terrifying they appeared? 6 hours would provide answers. The patrol fleet would intercept them, scan their vessel properly, and determine exactly what threat level humanity represented. If necessary, the Kavresh Empire would respond with overwhelming force. 10,000 years of dominance had not been maintained through weakness or hesitation. If humanity proved dangerous, they would be dealt with swiftly and permanently. But deep in his mind, beneath the layers of pride and confidence, Theron felt something he had not experienced in his long career. A small seed of doubt. A whisper of fear. What if humanity was something the galaxy had never encountered before? What if their impossible vessel was not a fluke but a preview of capabilities the Kavresh could not match? He pushed the thoughts aside and focused on the display. Soon, they would know the truth. Soon, humanity would be revealed as either a lucky, primitive species or something far more concerning. The countdown to intercept continued, and across Kavresh space, military commanders began to quietly prepare for the worst. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UHNS Indomitable, reviewing the diplomatic protocols one more time. Everything had to be perfect. This was humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization, and the responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the Kavresh Empire, Lieutenant Park announced from the communications station. Put it through, Sarah said, straightening her uniform. The message was clear and direct. The Kavresh demanded that the Indomitable halt at their border and submit to inspection. Standard quarantine procedures for new species, they claimed. The tone was polite but firm, leaving no room for negotiation. How long until we reach their border coordinates? Sarah asked. 40 minutes at current speed, the navigation officer replied. Sarah nodded. Reduce speed and prepare to halt as requested. Send a response confirming our cooperation. Remind them that we come in peace and look forward to establishing diplomatic relations. Around the bridge, her crew worked efficiently. They had trained for this moment for 2 years. Ever since Earth had achieved stable, faster-than-light travel. The Indomitable was chosen specifically for this mission because she was well-equipped for long-range exploration and could defend herself if necessary. But her primary purpose was science and diplomacy, not war. Message sent, Captain. Park confirmed. Good. Now, we wait and show them we can follow their rules. 40 minutes later, the Indomitable came to a complete stop at the designated coordinates. Sarah watched the display as 12 Kavresh warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel around them, forming a loose perimeter. "They are hailing us," Park said. "Open the channel." The view screen changed to show a Kavresh officer. He was tall and covered in fine blue scales, with 4 eyes arranged symmetrically on his face. His expression was difficult to read, but his body language suggested tension. "I am Commander Velak of the Kavresh Border Patrol. Your vessel will remain stationary while we conduct our scans. Do not activate any weapons, systems, or defensive measures. Is this understood?" R. M. Perfectly understood, Commander, Sarah replied with a friendly smile. "We have no intention of causing any problems. Take all the time you need." Velak nodded and cut the transmission. Sarah turned to her crew. "Stand down all weapons. I want minimal power signatures. Let us give them no reason to worry." "Yes, Captain," the tactical officer confirmed. The Kavresh ships began their scans. Sarah could see the sensor beams washing over the Indomitable's hull, probing every system, measuring every component. It was standard procedure, nothing to be concerned about. But after 10 minutes, something changed. The Kavresh ships began moving erratically, and Sarah could see increased energy readings, suggesting agitation. "What is happening?" she asked. "I think our ship is confusing their sensors," Chief Engineer Rodriguez said from his station. "Our hull composition is not matching anything in their database. Our reactor design is completely different from their technology. They probably cannot figure out what half our systems actually do." Sarah frowned. That was a problem she had not anticipated. Earth's technology developed independently, without any reference to galactic standards. Everything humanity built came from their own research and innovation. Of course, it would look strange to species who had different technological paths. "Try to send them our basic technical specifications," Sarah ordered. "Maybe that will help them understand." Before Park could transmit the data, every alarm on the bridge suddenly activated. The tactical display showed weapons fire. Multiple projectiles incoming from 3 Kavresh ships. "Evasive action," Sarah shouted, but her tactical officer was already responding. "They are warning shots, Captain," he reported. "Fired to pass within 1 kilometer of our hull. Our point defense systems automatically intercepted them." Sarah stared at the display in disbelief. The Kavresh warning shots had been vaporized before traveling even half the distance to the Indomitable. The point defense lasers had identified incoming projectiles and eliminated them with perfect accuracy in microseconds. On the view screen, she could see the Kavresh ships pulling back, their formation breaking apart in obvious confusion. "Get me Commander Velak immediately," Sarah demanded, her voice tight with anger. The view screen flickered, showing the Kavresh commander. He looked shocked, his 4 eyes wide with what Sarah recognized as fear. "Why did you fire on us?" Sarah asked sharply. "We complied with every instruction. We powered down our weapons. We remained stationary. And you responded by shooting at us?" "Those were warning shots," Velak stammered. "Standard procedure to test defensive capabilities." "Standard procedure? You fired weapons at a diplomatic vessel during a peaceful inspection?" Sarah could feel her temper rising. "Is this how the Kavresh Empire treats species, seeking peaceful contact? If you see, your defenses destroyed our projectiles," Velak said, his voice shaking slightly. "Your point defense systems are more advanced than anything in our arsenal. Our weapons could not touch you, even if we tried." Sarah took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. Getting angry would not help the situation. "Commander, those were automated defense systems. They respond to incoming threats without crew input. We had no idea you would fire on us, even as a test. If you had asked, we would have explained our capabilities." "What kind of vessel is this?" Velak asked. "Your reactor output exceeds our theoretical maximums. Your hull density is impossible. Your weapons systems are unidentifiable. What are you? Velik. Elix. Velik. We are a science and exploration vessel, Sarah replied. Our mission is diplomatic contact and cultural exchange. This is not a warship by human standards. The look on Velik's face suggested he did not believe her. Or worse, that he did believe her, and was terrified by the implications. I need to contact my superiors, Velik said. Admiral Theron must be informed immediately. You will remain here until we receive further instructions. The transmission cut off before Sarah could respond. She turned to Rodriguez. Tell me honestly. How powerful is the Indomitable compared to their ships? Rodriguez checked his readings and winced. Captain, our point defense systems alone are more advanced than their primary weapons. Our hull armor could probably withstand sustained fire from all 12 of those ships without significant damage. And our main weapons, if we fired on them, it would not be a battle. It would be an execution. Sarah felt her stomach drop. But this is just an exploration ship. We have minimal armament for self-defense. By human standards, yes, Rodriguez agreed. But human standards developed during centuries of warfare between nations with similar technology levels. We built everything to counter our own weapons. These species developed differently. They advanced slowly, carefully, probably by studying ancient ruins and artifacts. They have never faced an arms race like humanity went through. Sarah sat down heavily in her command chair. This was a disaster. They came seeking peace and friendship, but they arrived in a vessel that made them look like conquerors. The galaxy saw the Indomitable not as a diplomatic ship, but as a terrifying weapon. Open a channel to Earth, Sarah ordered. We need guidance. I think we may have started first contact very badly. As Park worked to establish the connection, Sarah looked at the Kavresh ships maintaining their nervous distance. Somewhere on one of those vessels, Admiral Theron was receiving a report that would make him fear humanity, and Sarah had no idea how to fix it. The High Council chambers of the Kavresh Empire were built to inspire awe. Massive pillars stretched toward a vaulted ceiling decorated with murals depicting 10,000 years of galactic dominance. Representatives from 47 different species occupied the circular seating arrangement, each delegation positioned according to their status and importance within the Empire. Today, the chamber was filled with tension so thick, it felt like a physical presence. Sarah Chen walked down the central aisle toward the speaking platform, her boots echoing on the polished stone floor. Chief Engineer Rodriguez walked beside her, carrying a data tablet containing the technical information humanity had prepared for trade negotiations. Behind them, 4 security personnel maintained professional vigilance. Every eye in the chamber followed their progress. Sarah had faced dangerous situations before, but this was different. She could feel the fear radiating from the assembled delegates. They looked at her as if she were a predator that had wandered into their midst. She reached the platform and turned to face the council. Admiral Theron sat in the position of military authority, his scaled face set in a stern expression. Beside him, Council Member Velrax represented the civilian government. A tall being with pale skin and too many fingers. Captain Chen, Velrax began, his voice carrying through the chamber without need for amplification. You have been granted this emergency audience to explain your presence in Kavresh space. The Council wishes to understand your intentions. Sarah took a breath and began the speech she had practiced. Honored Council members, I bring greetings from humanity and the United Human Nations. We come in peace, seeking to establish diplomatic relations with galactic civilization. We wish to engage in cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, and mutually beneficial trade. We understand we are newcomers to this community, and we hope to learn from your wisdom and experience. It was a good speech, carefully worded to show respect and humility. But Sarah could see it was not working. The delegates looked even more frightened than before. You speak of peace, Theron said coldly. Yet you arrive in a vessel of war. You speak of learning, yet your technology surpasses our most advanced systems. Explain this contradiction. 1P. The UHNS Indomitable is not a warship, Sarah replied firmly. It is an exploration and science vessel designed for long-range missions. By human standards, it carries minimal weaponry. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several delegates leaned toward each other, whispering urgently. Perhaps a demonstration would help, Rodriguez suggested quietly. Show them what we brought for trade. Sarah nodded. With the Council's permission, we prepared technical specifications to demonstrate human capabilities and potential areas of cooperation. Velrax gestured approval. Proceed. Rodriguez activated the data tablet, and holographic displays appeared above the speaking platform. He began with basic concepts, showing humanity's approach to faster-than-light travel, their antimatter containment systems, and their quantum computing networks. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. Delegates jumped to their feet, shouting in their various languages. Several appeared to be experiencing panic attacks. One delegate near the back collapsed and had to be assisted by their aides. Order, Velrax shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. We will have order. In this chamber. Slowly. The delegates returned to their seats. But the fear had intensified. Sarah looked at Rodriguez in confusion. What just happened? Just happened. I think we showed them too much too quickly, Rodriguez whispered back. Theron stood, his posture radiating hostility. You dare to come here and flaunt your weapons technology? You display capabilities that should not exist, systems that violate known physical principles. And you call this trade negotiation? These are not weapons, Sarah protested. These are basic technologies we use every day. Transportation systems, computers, power generation. This is how we live. Your antimatter containment alone is more advanced than our most sophisticated research facilities, Theron said. Your quantum networks operate at speeds we cannot achieve. And these are your basic technologies? Yes, Sarah replied, genuinely confused by the reaction. We developed these systems over centuries of research. They are not unusual for us. Velrax raised one of his many hands, calling for calm. Captain Chen, I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding that must be addressed. In galactic civilization, we advance by studying the ruins and artifacts of the precursors, an ancient race that vanished millions of years ago. We learn from what they left behind. We progress slowly, carefully, by understanding technology that already existed. This is how all known species have developed. Sarah felt understanding beginning to dawn. But we did not find any ruins. We did not have any artifacts to study. We developed everything ourselves. From basic principles. Exactly, Velrax said. And that is what terrifies us. You built everything from nothing, following your own scientific path. Your technology does not match our frameworks because you invented completely different frameworks. We have no context to understand what you are capable of, and no way to defend ourselves if you prove hostile, Theron added bluntly. The truth hit Sarah like a physical blow. Earth had sent her in what they considered a moderately equipped science vessel. But to the galaxy, the Indomitable looked like something from a nightmare. Humanity's independent development made them incomprehensible and therefore dangerous. Show them the actual specifications. A voice called from the delegates. Sarah looked and saw a slender being with silver skin standing in the section reserved for the Meridian Consortium. Show them what you really brought. Ambassador KL, Theron warned. Do not encourage this. KL ignored him and addressed Sarah directly. You said, the Indomitable is not a warship by human standards. Show us what a human warship actually looks like. Rodriguez looked at Sarah, who nodded reluctantly. He pulled up the specifications for an actual human dreadnought, the kind of vessel that guarded Earth's home system. The holographic display showed a ship 3 times the size of the Indomitable, bristling with weapon systems that made the exploration vessel look peaceful by comparison. Its armor was twice as thick. Its reactors could output energy levels that made the assembled delegates gasp in horror. 3 council members fainted. Others began shouting again, demanding explanations, threatening sanctions, calling for military mobilization. "This cannot be real," Theron said, but his voice shook with doubt. "No species could build such a thing. It is real," Sarah said quietly. "We have 12 of them, guarding our home system. We built them during our wars. Before we unified, when humans fought each other, we created weapons to counter our own defenses. We made stronger weapons, so we made stronger armor. We made faster ships, so we made better sensors. For thousands of years, we pushed each other to develop better technology because our survival depended on staying ahead of our enemies." "You weaponized innovation itself," Cale said, his voice filled with something between awe and horror. "Yes," Sarah admitted, "and when we finally stopped fighting each other and unified our world, we had technology that apparently no one else in the galaxy possesses. We did not know. We had nothing to compare ourselves to. We thought we were normal." "Normal," Theron repeated bitterly. Velrax stood slowly, his many fingers trembling. "Captain Chen, I must ask you directly. What are humanity's intentions? Why did you really come here?" Sarah looked around the chamber at the frightened faces of dozens of species. She thought about Earth's instructions, about the carefully worded diplomatic goals, about the hope that humanity could join galactic civilization as peaceful partners. "We came because we were alone," she said simply. "For our entire history, we thought we were the only intelligent life in the universe. When we finally achieved faster-than-light travel and detected your civilizations, we were overjoyed. We are not alone. There are others out here. We wanted to meet you, to learn from you, to share what we know. We wanted friends." "Friends," Cale repeated softly. "You came seeking friendship, but you arrived looking like conquerors." "We did not know," Sarah said, and she heard her voice break slightly. "We did not understand how different we were. We just wanted to say hello." Admiral Theron stood in the Strategic Command Center, deep within the Kavresh capital, watching tactical displays that showed the deployment of the Empire's war fleet. Around him, military commanders from a dozen different species coordinated what would be the largest military mobilization in 5,000 years. "The Third Fleet has reached defensive positions around the core worlds," Commander Velek reported. "The 5th and 7th Fleets are moving to reinforce the border. Total strength, 476 warships, against 1 human exploration vessel," Theron muttered. "And I am still not certain we could win." The door to the command center opened, and Council Member Velrax entered, his expression grim. "Admiral, I must protest this mobilization. Captain Chen has given us no reason to believe humanity intends violence. She brought a ship that could destroy our fleet," Theron replied sharply. "She showed us weapons we cannot defend against. Whether she intends violence or not, humanity represents an existential threat to the Empire." "She showed us technology," Velrax corrected. "There is a difference, is there?" Theron turned to face the council member directly. "For 10,000 years, we have maintained peace through strength. Every species in the galaxy knows that challenging the Kavresh Empire means defeat. But humanity? They could challenge us successfully. They could win. Once that knowledge spreads, our authority collapses. So you intend to destroy them before they become a political problem?" Theron did not answer immediately. He looked back at the tactical displays, at the hundreds of ships moving into position. "I intend to protect the Empire. If that requires preemptive action, then so be it." Velrax sighed deeply. "Then you doom us all, because if you attack humanity and fail, which is likely, they will have every justification to respond with their true military power. And if you somehow succeed, you will have destroyed a species that sought only friendship. The rest of the galaxy will never trust us again." The 2 leaders stood in tense silence, until an alarm broke the moment. A sensor operator called out urgently. "Admiral, we are detecting new, faster-than-light signatures. Multiple contacts approaching from human space." Theron rushed to the sensor station. "How many?" 12 vessels, sir. They are broadcasting identification codes and requesting permission to enter Kavresh space." 12? Theron felt ice form in his chest. 12 dreadnoughts? No, sir. The signatures are mixed. We are identifying them as civilian transports and one small escort vessel? Velrax leaned over the display. Captain Chen said she would request smaller ships for future contact. Perhaps these are the diplomatic vessels she promised. Or reinforcements disguised as civilians, Theron countered. We cannot take that chance. Order all fleets to battle readiness. If those ships cross our border, we engage. Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Sarah sat in her quarters trying to compose a report to Earth. It was not going well. How did she explain that humanity's first contact had turned into a potential war before any real communication had even begun? A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Lieutenant Park entered, looking worried. "They are asking permission to join us, but the Kavresh are threatening to fire on them if they enter their space." Sarah stood immediately. "Get me a channel to Ambassador Kale. He is the only one in that council who seems willing to actually talk instead of panic." Within minutes, she was speaking with the silver-skinned diplomat via secure transmission. KL appeared tired, his expression strained. "Captain Chen, I must warn you that Admiral Theron is mobilizing for war. Your convoy arriving has only increased his paranoia. Those are civilian ships," Sarah protested. "Colony transports, mining vessels, and one small frigate for escort. We sent them because you told us the Indomitable was too intimidating." "I know," Kale said. "I believe you. But Theron sees 12 more human vessels and assumes the worst. He thinks you are preparing an invasion fleet." Sarah wanted to scream in frustration. "How do we fix this? What will it take to convince you we are not here to conquer anyone?" "The truth might help," Kale suggested. "Tell me, Captain. Why is humanity so powerful? What happened on your world that made you develop such advanced technology?" Sarah considered for a moment, then made a decision. "Can you arrange for me to address the High Council one more time? Not a formal session. Something smaller, more personal. I want to show them something." Kale hesitated. "I can try. Earth's history. The real story of how we became what we are." Several hours later, Sarah stood before a smaller gathering in a council meeting room. Theron was there, along with Velrax, Kyle, and representatives from the most influential species in the Empire. The atmosphere was tense, but at least they had agreed to listen. Sarah connected her data tablet to the display system. "You asked why humanity is so powerful. You wondered how we developed technology that seems impossible to you. I want to show you the answer. But I warn you, it is not pleasant." She began playing recordings from Earth's history. Ancient wars fought with primitive weapons. Cities burning. Millions dying. Then, more advanced wars, with more terrible weapons. Bombs that could destroy entire cities in seconds. Biological weapons that killed indiscriminately. Chemical weapons that turned battlefields into nightmares. The assembled delegates watched in growing horror as humanity's violent past unfolded before them. Sarah narrated, her voice steady despite the pain of revisiting these dark chapters. "We spent 10,000 years fighting ourselves," she explained. "Not against alien invaders. Not against external threats. Against each other. Humans against humans. We developed weapons to kill our own kind more efficiently. We created defenses to protect ourselves from our own innovations. Every technological advancement was immediately weaponized because that was how we survived." The display showed nuclear detonations. Mushroom clouds rising over devastated landscapes. "We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We came within minutes of total annihilation. More than once. But we learned. Slowly, painfully. We learned that cooperation was better than conflict. The scenes shifted to show humanity's gradual unification. Treaties signed. Weapons decommissioned. Nations joining together. It took us thousands of years of suffering to understand what you already knew. That peace is better than war. That working together achieves more than fighting alone. Sarah paused the display and faced the delegates directly. Our antimatter reactors were developed to power weapons. Our hull armor was designed to survive nuclear strikes. Our point defense systems were meant to shoot down incoming missiles. Every system on the Indomitable exists because at some point in our history, we needed it to survive a threat we had created ourselves. You are warriors, Theron said quietly. Your entire species was forged in conflict. We were warriors, Sarah corrected. Past tense. We unified our world a century ago. We have not had a major war since then. We are trying to be better than our history. That is why we came here. We want to do things differently. We want to be builders instead of destroyers. Velrak spoke thoughtfully. But the capacity for violence remains. The weapons exist. The knowledge cannot be unlearned. True, Sarah admitted. We cannot forget how to build weapons. But we can choose not to use them. We can choose to come in peace, even when we have the power to conquer. That choice is what defines us now. KL leaned forward. What would humanity do if we attacked your convoy? If Admiral Theron gave the order, and our fleets opened fire? Sarah met his gaze steadily. We would defend ourselves, and we would win. But then we would stop. We would not pursue your fleets back to your worlds. We would not retaliate against your civilian populations. We would not conquer your empire. We would simply leave, and never come back. Why? Theron demanded. If you had the power to defeat us, why not press the advantage? Because that is not who we are anymore, Sarah replied. We learned our lesson. We know where violence leads. We have seen the cost of conquest and empire. We chose a different path. The room fell silent as the delegates processed her words. Finally, KL spoke again. You are asking us to trust you, to believe that despite your overwhelming power, you will not use it against us. Yes, Sarah said simply. That is exactly what I am asking. The Kavresh High Council convened an emergency session for the third time in as many days. The full assembly was present, all 47 species represented, along with their military advisors and diplomatic staff. The chamber buzzed with urgent conversations in dozens of languages. Admiral Theron stood at the military podium, his posture rigid with conviction. The facts are clear. Humanity possesses overwhelming military superiority. Their exploration vessel alone could destroy our border patrol fleet. Their actual warships are 3 times more powerful. And now, 12 additional vessels approach our space. We must act now, while we still have the advantage of numbers. What advantage? Council Member Velrax countered from the civilian podium. You mobilized 400 ships against 13 human vessels. And by Captain Chen's admission, only one of those 13 is even a military ship. The rest are civilian transports. You propose starting a war against a species that has demonstrated only peaceful intentions. Peaceful intentions backed by weapons that could annihilate us, Theron shot back. I do not question Captain Chen's sincerity. I question humanity's long-term goals. Today they seek friendship. But tomorrow? What happens when they realize they could take whatever they want? Ambassador Kale stood, requesting recognition. When acknowledged, he addressed the full council. I have spent the last 2 days studying the historical records Captain Chen provided. I have consulted with our xenopsychology experts and strategic analysts, and I have reached a conclusion that many of you will find difficult to accept. The chamber quieted, waiting for him to continue. Humanity is not lying to us, Kale said. They truly do seek peaceful coexistence. But more importantly, they are afraid of themselves. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Theron looked skeptical. Explain. Theron. Humanity spent thousands of years locked in a cycle of violence, Kale explained. They developed increasingly terrible weapons and used them against their own kind. They nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. When they finally achieved unity, it was not through conquest, but through mutual exhaustion and horror at what they had become. They unified because they were terrified of their own capacity for destruction. He activated a holographic display showing data from Earth's history. Look at their weapons development curve. It accelerates rapidly during periods of conflict, then plateaus during periods of peace. When they unified, weapons development nearly stopped. They redirected their innovation toward exploration and scientific research. This is not a species waiting to conquer. This is a species actively trying to move beyond their violent past. They still have the weapons, Theron insisted. The knowledge still exists. Yes, Kale agreed. And that is precisely why they will not use them carelessly. They know what those weapons can do, because they have used them before. They have seen the consequences. We have not. We theorize about warfare on a massive scale. They have actually experienced it. A delegate from the Tyrellian hegemony stood, her crystalline form refracting light as she moved. Ambassador Kale makes a compelling point. But it does not address the fundamental problem. Humanity's very existence destabilizes the galactic order. Whether they intend it or not, their power shifts the balance. Then perhaps the balance needed shifting, Velrax said quietly. The chamber erupted in shocked responses. He raised his hands for silence. Consider this objectively. The Kavresh Empire has ruled for 10,000 years because we possessed superior technology inherited from the precursors. We maintained peace through the threat of overwhelming force. But what kind of peace is built entirely on fear? What kind of civilization stagnates for millennia because innovation is limited to studying ancient ruins? You suggest we welcome them? Theron asked incredulously. Embrace the species that makes us obsolete? I suggest we recognize an opportunity when it presents itself. Velrax replied. Humanity knows how to innovate. They know how to develop new technology from fundamental principles. They can teach us what we have forgotten. Not how to make weapons, but how to think creatively, how to solve problems through invention, rather than archaeology. Admiral Theron stood silent for a long moment, his expression troubled. Finally, he spoke quietly. And if we are wrong, if we trust them and they betray that trust, then we fight, Kael said simply. And we probably lose. But if we attack them now, we definitely lose. Either through military defeat or through moral bankruptcy. The choice is between possible betrayal in the future or certain self-destruction now. The council chamber fell silent as the delegates considered the impossible choice before them. Trust the terrifying newcomers or start a war they could not win. Velrax turned to address the full assembly. I propose a formal vote, full diplomatic recognition of humanity, immediate cessation of military mobilization, and commencement of trade and cultural exchange negotiations. All in favor? The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 41 species voted in favor. 6 abstained. Only the Kavresh military delegation voted against, and even they seemed relieved by the outcome. Theron stood alone at his podium, watching the results display. He had spent his entire career protecting the Empire through strength. Now, he was being asked to protect it through trust. The transition felt impossible. Admiral, Velrax said gently, approaching him. You are not wrong to be cautious. But perhaps caution means choosing survival over pride. Theron nodded slowly. I will stand by the Council's decision, but I will also maintain readiness. Trust. Yes. But verify. That seems reasonable, Velrax agreed. Shall we inform Captain Chen of our decision? Aboard the Indomitable, Sarah was reviewing supply reports when Lieutenant Park called out excitedly. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the High Council. They are requesting immediate communication." Sarah's heart raced as she accepted the transmission. The view screen showed Velrax, and behind him she could see the assembled council delegates. To her surprise, many of them were smiling. "Captain Chen," Velrax began formally, "the High Council of the Kavresh Empire has voted to extend full diplomatic recognition to humanity. We welcome you to the galactic community and invite you to begin formal negotiations regarding trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. "Thank you, Council Member Velrax. On behalf of humanity, we accept with gratitude and joy. We also wish to apologize," Velrax continued. "We reacted with fear when we should have responded with curiosity. We saw your power and assumed threat when you offered only friendship. This was unworthy of us. You had no way to know our intentions," Sarah replied. "And we did not understand how frightening we appeared. We both made mistakes. What matters is that we move forward together." Kale appeared on the transmission. "Captain, your convoy has been cleared to enter Kavresh space. We have prepared facilities for diplomatic negotiations on the capital world. We also have many scientists very eager to discuss your technological innovations if you are willing to share." "We are very willing." Sarah laughed, relief flooding through her. "That is why we came. We have so much to learn from you, and apparently much to teach as well." The transmission ended, and Sarah's crew erupted in cheers. Rodriguez approached, grinning widely. "We did it, Captain. We made first contact without starting a war." "Barely," Sarah replied. But she was smiling. "Barely." 2 weeks later, Sarah stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, watching as the human convoy docked with the massive Kavresh diplomatic station. Around her, crew members mixed with delegates from dozens of species, exchanging stories, and beginning the slow work of building understanding. Ambassador Kale found her standing alone, looking out at the stars. "A credit for your thoughts, Captain? I was thinking about how close we came to disaster," Sarah admitted. "If Admiral Theron had given the order to attack, if the Council had not voted for peace, so many things could have gone wrong." "Admiral Theron. The other times have gone wrong. Admiral Theron. But they did not," Kale said. "You showed us who you truly are. Not through your weapons, but through your choice not to use them. That is what convinced us in the end. I hope we can live up to that trust," Sarah said quietly. "I believe you will." Kale paused, then added, "Your species has a saying. I understand." "About swords and plowshares?" Sarah nodded. "Beating swords into plowshares, turning weapons into tools, violence into peace. You have done this already," Kale observed. "Your warships guard your home, but your exploration vessels travel the galaxy. Your weapons exist, but you choose to use your power for discovery instead of conquest. This is a lesson the galaxy needed to learn." Sarah looked out at the assembled ships, human and alien alike, docked together in peace. "Maybe we can learn from each other. You can teach us the wisdom of ages. We can teach you the courage to innovate. Together, perhaps we can build something better than either of us could achieve alone." "Together," Kale agreed, and they stood in comfortable silence, watching the beginning of a new era. In his quarters aboard the Eternal Glory, Admiral Theron reviewed reports from the diplomatic station. Human engineers were already consulting with Kavresh scientists. Trade negotiations were progressing smoothly. Cultural exchange programs were being planned. It looked like peace. Real peace. Not maintained through fear, but built on mutual respect. He still maintained fleet readiness. Still kept sensors monitoring human space. Still prepared for the possibility of betrayal. But with each passing day, That possibility seemed less likely. Perhaps, he thought, strength was not just the ability to destroy. Perhaps true strength was the power to build, to protect, to choose peace when violence was easier. The humans had learned that lesson through suffering. Maybe it was time for the rest of the galaxy to learn it too. Theron closed his reports and looked out at the stars, allowing himself to hope. Humanity had arrived in panic and fear, in a dreadnought that terrified the galaxy. But they had stayed as friends, as partners, as proof that power and peace could coexist. The galaxy would never be the same. But perhaps, Theron thought, that was not such a terrible thing after all.
The great chamber of Concordia Station stretched wide and tall, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Ambassador Min Jun Park stood at the human delegation's platform, his hands steady despite the tension in the air. Around him, 47 different species sat in their assigned seats, each watching the proceedings with their own unique eyes, sensors, or perception organs. Min Jun had spent 15 years building relationships with these people. He had shared meals with the Virani, discussed philosophy with the Korthan scholars, and negotiated fair trade agreements with the Zephrani merchants. He thought he had built trust. He thought humans had finally found their place among the stars. He was wrong. The council speaker, a towering Callian with silver scales and 3 pairs of eyes, raised her primary arms for silence. Her voice echoed through the translation devices everyone wore. "We gather today to address the human question," she announced. "For 30 years, humanity has been part of our galactic community. In that time, we have observed patterns that cause great concern." Min Jun felt his stomach tighten. This was not the trade negotiation he had been told to expect. The speaker continued. "Humans expand too quickly. They ask too many questions. They change too fast. Their emotions make them unpredictable. Their technologies develop in directions we cannot always understand or control." A Korthan representative stood, his feathers rippling with agitation. "Just last year, humans developed a new engine design without proper council approval. They share their culture too freely, disrupting traditional values on 12 worlds. They refuse to accept that some knowledge should remain restricted. They are dangerous," added a Zephrani delegate, her crystalline body flashing red. "Not because they wish harm, but because they do not understand limits." Min Jun requested permission to speak. The speaker granted it with a reluctant gesture. "We have broken no laws," Min Jun said, keeping his voice calm and clear. "We have honored every treaty. Yes, we are curious. Yes, we grow quickly. But we have only sought friendship and mutual benefit. If we have caused offense, we will listen and learn." The speaker's expression was unreadable. "This is not about laws, Ambassador Park. This is about compatibility. The Council has determined that humanity is not ready for full galactic integration. Perhaps in a few thousand years, your species will have matured sufficiently." Min Jun's heart began to pound. "What exactly are you proposing?" "The Galactic Council is voting today on Resolution 4401. This resolution will ban humanity from all galactic trade networks, deny access to jump gate systems, and terminate all diplomatic relations. Human colonies and stations in galactic space will have 90 days to evacuate all non-human residents and cease all commerce." The words hit Min Jun like physical blows. This was not a warning. This was exile. "You are isolating an entire species," Min Jun said, and for the first time, anger crept into his voice. "We are talking about billions of people, colonies that depend on trade, medical supplies, food shipments. You will cause suffering on a massive scale." "We regret the hardship," the speaker said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But the majority has spoken. We must protect the stability of galactic civilization." "May we at least hear the charges fully? May we defend ourselves properly?" Min Jun asked. There are no charges, Ambassador. This is not a trial. This is a decision made for the greater good. The vote was called. Min-jun watched the display screens as each species registered their choice. The numbers climbed steadily. 39 species voted yes to the ban. Only 8 voted no. The Virani, small and often dismissed, were among those 8. So were the Tokai, who had fought alongside humans in defending a mining colony from pirates 3 years ago. But it was not enough. The resolution passes, the speaker announced. Humanity is hereby banned from the Galactic Council and all associated systems. This decision is final and will take effect immediately. Min-jun stood silent for a long moment. Around him, the other 2 members of Earth's delegation looked stunned. Dr. Sarah Chen gripped the railing of their platform. Commander James Wright's jaw was clenched tight. Finally, Min-jun spoke. His voice was steady now, cold and clear. You ask us to remember that we are young. You tell us we need thousands of years to mature. Very well. We will remember this day. We will remember that when we came to you in friendship, you chose fear. When we offered cooperation, you chose isolation. When we needed understanding, you chose judgment. He paused, looking at each section of the great chamber. Humanity will accept this ban. We will leave your space. We will take care of our own people. But I make you this promise. Not as a threat, but as a fact. We will not forget. We will not give up, and we will not disappear. Whatever happens next, you have chosen it yourselves. The chamber remained silent as the human delegation turned to leave. Min-jun walked with his head high, though inside he felt the weight of representing an entire species that had just been cast out. As they reached the exit, a small figure approached. It was one of the Virani delegates, her fur rippling with distress. Ambassador Park, she whispered in heavily accented standard. Not all of us agree. Some of us remember what you have done for us. Some of us will remember. Min-jun nodded to her, grateful for the small comfort. Thank you. That means more than you know. The Virani hurried away before anyone could notice their conversation. Commander Wright waited until they were in the shuttle back to their ship before he spoke. What do we do now? Min-jun stared out the window at the vast station, at the ships from dozens of worlds coming and going freely through the jump gates that would soon be denied to humans. Now, he said quietly, now we go home. We tell Earth what has happened, and then we figure out how to survive. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Do you really think we can? Without galactic trade? Without their technology? Min-jun was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that surprised even himself. I think they just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They think isolation will weaken us. They think we will beg to be let back in. He looked at his colleagues. They do not understand humans at all. We are at our best when we have no choice but to be strong. The shuttle carried them away from Concordia Station, away from the galaxy that had rejected them, back toward Earth and an uncertain future. Behind them, in the council chamber, the speaker was already moving on to the next item of business, dismissing humanity as a problem solved. She would learn otherwise. They all would. 5 years had passed since the ban, and Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Min-jun Park stood in his new office in Geneva, looking at screens showing reports from across human space. His title was different now. He was no longer an ambassador to anyone. Instead, he directed the Terran Independence Initiative, the organization responsible for keeping humanity alive and moving forward. The first 2 years had been terrible. Without access to galactic markets, Earth's economy had crashed. Colonies that depended on imported food faced starvation. Medical facilities lost access to advanced alien medicines. Ships stranded outside human space had to make dangerous journeys home through uncharted routes, and not all of them made it. Min-jun remembered the protests, the riots, the demands that Earth's government begged the Council for mercy. He remembered the night he almost gave in, almost drafted a message of apology and submission. But something had stopped him. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stubbornness. Or maybe it was the memory of the Kallian speaker's dismissive tone when she told humanity they needed thousands of years to grow up. So instead of begging, humanity had worked. The screens in front of Min-jun told the story. Food production had increased by 40% using new farming techniques developed by desperate agricultural scientists. Medical researchers, unable to access alien compounds, had gone back to basics and discovered new treatments from Earth's own biology. Engineers who once relied on galactic blueprints had been forced to innovate, and their solutions were often better than what they had been copying. Director Park? A voice interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Hyejin Choi stood in the doorway, her eyes bright with excitement. "We did it! The test was successful!" Min-jun turned from the screens. Dr. Choi was young, barely 30, but she had become one of humanity's most important scientists. For 3 years, she had been working on a problem that seemed impossible. "You are sure?" Min-jun asked. "Completely sure. We do not need their jump gates anymore. Our ships can travel faster than light using a completely different method." Dr. Choi pulled up holographic displays, showing equations and diagrams that Min-jun barely understood. "It works differently from anything the galactic species use. We fold space using quantum resonance patterns. It is actually faster than their gates for long distances." Min-jun sat down slowly. This changed everything. The Council's ban had power because they controlled the jump gates, the network that connected the entire galaxy. Without access to those gates, human ships had been trapped using slower-than-light travel, making anything beyond the solar system nearly impossible to reach. "How long until we can put this on our ships?" he asked. "The first engine is already installed on a test vessel. We could have 20 ships ready in 6 months, 100 in a year." Min-jun allowed himself a small smile. The Council is going to be very surprised. But there was more news that day. As Min-jun and Dr. Choi discussed the implications of the new drive system, an urgent message came through on his private channel. The sender was using old codes, ones Min-jun had not seen in years. It was from the Varani. Min-jun opened the message in private. The small, furry face of Ambassador Kalira appeared, and she looked frightened. "Min-jun Park," she said, using his personal name as she had when they were friends. "I need help. My government made the mistake of trading with a human merchant who slipped through the blockade. The Council discovered this. They have declared us treaty violators. Their enforcers are coming. We have nowhere to go." The message ended with coordinates and a desperate plea. "If humanity has any mercy left after what we did to you, please. We were one of the 8 who voted against the ban. We tried to stop this." Min-jun stood very still. Every logical part of his brain told him this was too dangerous. Humans were barely stable themselves. They could not afford to antagonize the Council. They should stay quiet, stay hidden, and keep building their strength. But another part of him, the part that made him human, remembered a small Varani delegate whispering words of support on the worst day of his life. He called an emergency meeting of the Terran Command Council. Within an hour, representatives from Earth's major governments gathered virtually around a conference table. Min-jun explained the situation. "The Varani are in trouble because they refuse to abandon us completely. The Council is sending ships to punish them. We can reach them first with our new drive system, but doing so will reveal our capabilities to the galaxy. It will also be seen as an act of defiance." "We are not ready for a confrontation with the Council," said the representative from the African Union. "We need more time. If we reveal ourselves now, we lose the element of surprise," added the East Asian Coalition speaker. "Our advantage disappears." Min-jun nodded. "All true. But if we abandon the Varani, we become exactly what the Council accused us of being, We lose our humanity. And I do not know about you, but that is the one thing I refuse to lose." There was silence around the table. Then the European Federation representative spoke. "We spent 5 years isolated, angry, and struggling, but we survived because we remembered who we are. If we start abandoning our principles now, what was the point?" One by one, the votes came in. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. Min Jun authorized the mission. The newly christened ship Resilience was prepared for launch. Its captain was Sung-Ho Kim, a veteran of the merchant fleet who had been one of the last humans to make it home after the ban. He knew better than anyone what it meant to be stranded in an uncaring galaxy. "We are going to save some people who once tried to save us," Min Jun told Captain Kim, "and we are going to show the Council that they did not break us." Captain Kim saluted. "It will be my honor, Director." The Resilience launched 3 days later. It crossed distances in hours that would have taken months using old technology. The crew watched their screens in amazement as space folded around them, as stars blurred past in ways that should not have been possible. They reached the Varani homeworld system just as Council enforcer ships were arriving from the other direction. Captain Kim opened communications on all frequencies. His message was simple and clear. "This is the Terran vessel Resilience. We are here to evacuate Varani civilians who face unjust punishment. Any attempt to interfere will be met with defensive action. Humanity has returned to galactic space, and we will not abandon our friends." In his office on Earth, Min Jun watched the transmission and smiled. Behind him, Dr. Choi monitored the readings from the Resilience's new drive system. "The Council ships are not moving," she reported. "I think they are confused. They do not understand how we got there so fast." "Let them be confused," Min Jun said. "Let them wonder what else we have learned in 5 years." The Resilience began evacuating Varani civilians. The Council ships held their position, unwilling to fire without understanding what they were dealing with. And across the galaxy, on 100 worlds and 1,000 ships, beings who had secretly sympathized with humanity began to whisper. Humans were back. Humans were stronger. And humans had not forgotten their friends. The galaxy was about to learn that isolation had not weakened humanity. It had forged them into something new. The rescue of the Varani changed everything. Captain Sung-Ho Kim brought his ship back to Earth with 3,000 Varani refugees, beings who had lost their homes because they refused to completely abandon humanity. As the small, furry people stepped off the Resilience onto Earth soil, news cameras captured everything. The images spread across human networks and, more importantly, through secret channels into galactic space. The Council had called an emergency session within hours of the rescue. Min Jun watched the leaked footage from his office. The Council members were arguing loudly. Some demanded military action against humanity. Others urged caution, clearly worried about the technology humans had displayed. But what interested Min Jun most was what happened after that session ended. His communication system started receiving messages. The first came from the Tokai, an insectoid species who had voted against the ban 5 years ago. Their ambassador requested a private meeting. Then came a message from the Murathi, a species not even part of the Council, who lived in the outer regions where Council authority was weak. Then another, and another. Within a week, representatives from 12 different species had made secret contact with humanity. They all had similar stories. They were tired of the Council's rigid rules. They were frustrated by the Kallians' dominance of galactic politics. They were impressed by humanity's resilience and innovation. Most importantly, they wanted to trade. Min Jun organized a meeting on Luna, Earth's moon. He chose it because it was clearly human territory, but also because the location itself sent a message. Humans were no longer hiding. The conference room was built quickly, designed to accommodate beings of different sizes and atmospheric needs. When the delegates arrived, using their own ships and their own methods of travel, Min-jun greeted each one personally. Ambassador Kalira of the Varani was there, representing her people in exile. The Tokai sent their trade minister, a thoughtful being named Zixith, who communicated through pheromones and gestures. The Marathi brought their clan leader, a massive creature covered in rock-like armor. There were others, too. The Shen, who breathed methane and lived in cold environments. The Lyrath, energy beings who existed partially in another dimension. The Kesh, who looked almost human but had silver skin and could see ultraviolet light. Each had their reasons for being there, but they all shared one thing. They were tired of being dismissed, controlled, or ignored by the Council. Min-jun stood before them and spoke plainly. 5 years ago, the galaxy told humanity we were not welcome. They said we were too young, too dangerous, too unpredictable. Maybe they were right about some of that, but what they did not understand is that we are also loyal, determined, and creative. We do not forget our friends, and we do not abandon people in need. He gestured to the Varani delegation. When the Council punished the Varani for showing us kindness, we could have stayed hidden. We could have protected ourselves. Instead, we chose to help, because that is what humans do. Zixith, the Tokai minister, released pheromones that the translation system interpreted as approval. The Council grows comfortable in their power. They forget that the galaxy is large and their authority is not absolute. Many of us have watched humanity with interest. Your rapid development, your cultural diversity, your willingness to challenge old assumptions. These are strengths, not weaknesses. The Marathi clan leader spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. My people exist on the edges of galactic civilization. The Council takes our resources but gives us little in return. They tell us we are too primitive to have full representation. But humans have shown more respect in one meeting than the Council has shown in a century. Min-jun saw the opportunity before him. What if we created something new? Not an opposition to the Council, but an alternative. A compact between species who believe in fair trade, mutual respect, and genuine cooperation. The Terran Compact, Dr. Choi suggested quietly from her seat beside Min-jun. The name resonated around the room. One by one, the delegates signaled their interest. Over the next 3 months, the foundation was built. The Terran Compact was not trying to replace the Galactic Council. Instead, it existed as a separate entity, a network of species who chose to work together on their own terms. Humanity shared its new technologies freely with Compact members. Dr. Choi's faster-than-light drive became available to any species who joined. Human agricultural techniques helped the Shen increase food production on their frozen worlds. Human medicine, developed without alien compounds during the isolation years, proved effective for species whose biology was incompatible with Council treatments. In return, the Compact members shared their own knowledge. The Lyrath taught humans about energy manipulation. The Kesh shared their advanced sensor technology. The Tokai offered expertise in bioengineering. The Compact grew. By the end of the first year, 23 species had joined. Some were small species, like the Varani, who had little power in Council politics. Others were larger groups who had been dissatisfied with Council control for generations. The Council watched this development with growing alarm. Min-jun received a message on his personal channel. It came through official diplomatic protocols, bearing the seal of the Galactic Council itself. The message was from a Korthan named Vel Shar, one of the Council's senior diplomats. His tone was carefully neutral. Director Park, the Council has observed the formation of what you call the Terran Compact. While we maintain that the ban on humanity was justified and necessary, we recognize that circumstances have evolved. The Council is prepared to discuss a limited restoration of diplomatic contact. In return, we would expect humanity to submit to Council oversight and to cease the expansion of your Compact organization. Min-jun read the message 3 times. Then he called a meeting of the Compact's coordinating committee. They are offering to let us back in, he told the assembled representatives, but only if we agree to be controlled. Only if we abandon what we have built together. Ambassador Kalira's fur rippled with agitation. They fear you. They fear all of us. The compact represents everything they cannot control. What will humanity choose? Asked Zixith. Minjun thought about the past 5 years. The suffering during the isolation, the desperate innovation, the gradual building of something new and better. He thought about the Varani refugees who had found homes on Earth and Mars. He thought about the Murathi miners who now traded fairly with human colonies. He thought about the dozens of species who had found a voice in the compact that they never had in the council. We will choose our friends, Minjun said. We will choose freedom over permission. He composed his response to Velshar carefully. It was polite, professional, and absolutely clear. The Terran Compact thanks the Galactic Council for their offer. However, we must respectfully decline. Humanity has moved forward, not backward. We have built partnerships based on mutual respect, not hierarchy. We invite the Council to engage with the Compact as equals. But we will not submit to oversight or control. The galaxy is large enough for multiple approaches to civilization. He sent the message knowing it would provoke a reaction. The reaction came swiftly. The Council announced security exercises near compact space. Council fleet movements increased. Trade restrictions were placed on any species that had contact with compact members. It was not quite a war, but it was close. Minjun stood on the observation deck of humanity's new orbital station, looking out at Earth below. Dr. Choi joined him, her expression worried. They are preparing for conflict, she said. Do you think we can stand against them if it comes to that? Minjun was quiet for a long moment. I do not know. The Council has more ships, more resources, more experience, but we have something they have forgotten about. We have a reason to fight. We are not defending an empire. We are defending the right to exist on our own terms. Far across the galaxy, in the council chambers on Concordia Station, the speaker was having the same conversation with her advisors. But her conclusion was different. The humans must be brought to heel, she declared. We gave them a chance to learn humility. Instead, they have become more defiant. The compact threatens everything we have built. We must act. The stage was set. The council and the compact stood opposed. Then something happened that no one expected. The plague started on Kalios Prime, the Kalian homeworld, and it spread with terrifying speed. Minjun first heard about it from intelligence reports. The Kalian, one of the founding species of the Galactic Council and its most powerful members, were facing a medical crisis unlike anything in their recorded history. A virus had mutated, jumping from their livestock to their population. Within weeks, millions were sick. Within a month, thousands were dying every day. The Council's best medical facilities were overwhelmed. Their advanced alien medicines, developed over thousands of years, had no effect on this new strain. The Kalian were one of the oldest spacefaring species, masters of biotechnology, and they were helpless. Dr. Choi brought Minjun the detailed analysis that Compact Intelligence had gathered. She spread the medical data across his desk, her expression serious. This is bad, she said. The Kalian immune system is sophisticated but specialized. This virus exploits a weakness in their cellular structure. Council medicine focuses on enhancement and optimization, but they have lost touch with basic immunology. They are trying to outthink the virus when they should be working with the body's natural defenses. Minjun studied the data. Can we help? Dr. Choi was quiet for a moment. Maybe. During our isolation, we had to go back to basics. We studied Earth diseases, natural immunity, the fundamental ways that bodies fight infection. We developed a whole new approach to medicine because we could not access alien compounds anymore. This virus is alien, but the principles are the same. How long would it take? To develop a treatment? With the data we have, maybe 3 weeks. Maybe less. Min-jun leaned back in his chair. The irony was almost painful. The species that had banned humanity, that had declared humans too dangerous and unpredictable, now faced extinction from a disease that human medicine might be able to cure. "What are the ethics here?" he asked, not really expecting an answer. "They exiled us. They threatened us. They tried to strangle the compact before it could grow. Do we owe them anything?" Dr. Choi met his eyes. "That is not a question for a scientist. That is a question for a human being." Min-jun called an emergency meeting of the Compact's coordinating committee. The representatives gathered virtually, their faces showing a mix of emotions as he explained the situation. "The Callian are dying," he said bluntly. "We may be able to help. I am asking for your perspectives before humanity makes a decision." Ambassador Kalira spoke first, her voice bitter. "The Callian led the vote to ban humanity. They were the loudest voices calling you dangerous. They have shown you no mercy. Why should you show them any?" The Marathi clan leader rumbled in agreement. "Let the council solve their own problems. They have treated the compact as a threat. Let them see what real threat looks like." But Zixith, the Tokai minister, released pheromones of contemplation. "What we do now defines what we are. The compact was built on principles different from the council. If we choose to let millions die because of political anger, we become exactly what they accused humanity of being." The debate continued for hours. Min-jun listened to every perspective, understanding the anger and the fear. The council had 3 fleets positioned near compact space, clearly preparing for military action. Helping the Callian now might be seen as weakness. Finally, Min-jun made his decision. "Dr. Choi will assemble a medical team. We will develop a treatment, and we will offer it to the Callian freely." "They will never accept it," warned a Shen delegate. "Their pride will not allow them to take help from humans." Min-jun smiled grimly. "That is their choice to make. We will offer. What they do with the offer will tell the galaxy everything it needs to know about both of us." Dr. Choi worked around the clock with a team of human doctors and scientists. They were joined by compact members who had expertise in viral diseases. The Lyrath contributed their understanding of energy-based cellular processes. The Tokai shared bioengineering techniques. 18 days after starting work, Dr. Choi had a treatment protocol. It was not a miracle cure, but it would work. The virus could be stopped, the sick could be saved, but it required a fundamental approach that the Council's medicine had abandoned centuries ago. Min-jun composed a message to the Galactic Council. He knew it would be broadcast, analyzed, and debated across the entire galaxy. He chose his words carefully. "To the Galactic Council and the people of Kalios Prime, humanity has learned of the medical crisis affecting the Callian population. Despite the history between our peoples, despite the ban and the threats, we cannot stand by while millions suffer. We have developed a treatment protocol that we believe will be effective against the virus. We offer this freely, with no conditions and no demands. We offer it because it is the right thing to do. We offer it because this is who humans are. The medical data and treatment protocols are attached to this message. Our medical teams stand ready to assist if requested. We hope you will accept this offer in the spirit it is given." He sent the message and waited. The response came not from the Council officially, but from individual Callian medical facilities who were desperate enough to try anything. They implemented the human protocols. Within days, patients began to recover. Within a week, the death rate dropped dramatically. The news spread across the galaxy like light through water. Min-jun watched as the reports came in. Callian lives saved by human medicine. The treatment worked. The crisis was ending. But the political impact was even more dramatic. The council met in emergency session. Min Jun obtained leaked footage of the debate. Speaker Veshatala, the same Kallian who had presided over humanity's banishment, stood before a divided chamber. "We face a choice," she said, her voice heavy with something that might have been shame. "We can maintain our pride and our policies, or we can acknowledge a truth that has become unavoidable. Humanity is not the danger we claim them to be. The Terran Compact is not the threat we feared. We made a mistake 5 years ago, and today that mistake has been laid bare for the entire galaxy to see." The debate was fierce. Some council members argued for maintaining the ban, claiming that accepting human help was a sign of weakness. Others pointed out that millions of Kallian were alive because of humans, and that fact could not be ignored. Across the galaxy, public opinion was shifting dramatically. The story was simple and powerful. Humans had been exiled, had been threatened, had every reason to let their enemies suffer. Instead, they had chosen compassion. They had chosen to help. Species began to ask questions. If the Council was wrong about humanity, what else were they wrong about? If humans could develop medicine that the Council could not, what did that say about Council superiority? 8 Council species formally announced their withdrawal to join the Terran Compact. They were led by the Tokai, who had always been skeptical of Kallian dominance, but they included others: the Rin, master shipbuilders; the Orvax, agricultural experts; the Zenith, whose computational abilities were legendary. The council was fracturing. Min Jun received another message from Velshar, the Korthan diplomat. This time, the tone was very different. "Director Park, the council has voted to repeal the ban on humanity. You are invited to return to full diplomatic and trade relations. The Council acknowledges that errors were made in the original assessment of humanity's character. We hope to begin a new era of cooperation." Min Jun read the message to the Compact Coordinating Committee. Ambassador Kalira's fur rippled with satisfaction. "They blink first. You have won." But Min Jun shook his head slowly. This is not about winning. This was never about defeating the Council. It was about building something better. He composed his response carefully. The Terran Compact appreciates the Council's decision to repeal the ban. However, we must respectfully decline to rejoin the Council structure. We have built something new here, something based on equality and genuine cooperation. We are not interested in returning to a system where some species are more equal than others. Instead, we propose a different relationship. Let the Council and the Compact exist as separate but equal entities. Let species choose which system suits them better, or participate in both if they wish. Let us compete not through military force or economic pressure, but through the quality of the civilizations we build. He sent the message and turned to his team. We are offering them a way forward that saves face but changes everything. They can accept that the galaxy is big enough for different approaches, or they can fight to maintain their monopoly on power. Dr. Choi smiled. They will accept. They have no choice. Half their members are already talking about joining the Compact. If they fight us now, they will lose everything. She was right. 3 days later, the Council issued a formal response. They would accept the Compact as an equal organization. They would not demand that species choose between Council and Compact membership. The galaxy would be shared. It was not perfect. There was still tension, still competition, still disagreement. But it was a new beginning. Min Jun stood once again on the observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. Sung-Ho Kim joined him this time, the captain having become a close friend over the years. "We did it," Sung-Ho said quietly. 5 years ago, they threw us out. Now we are partners. "Not quite partners yet," Min Jun corrected. "But we are equals. That is enough." "What happens now?" Sung-Ho asked. Min Jun smiled. "Now we prove that our way works. We show the galaxy that cooperation is stronger than control, that diversity is better than conformity, that being banned was the best thing that ever happened to us." The first Joint Council Compact Summit was held on neutral ground, a newly constructed station called Unity Point. The name was optimistic, perhaps overly so, but Min Jun appreciated the symbolism. He arrived on the Resilience, with Captain Sung-Ho Kim at the helm and Dr. Hyejin Choi by his side. They were not alone. Representatives from 19 other compact species traveled with them, a demonstration of the alliance they had built. The council delegation arrived in their traditional procession, ships from dozens of worlds forming an impressive display. Speaker Veshitala led them, her silver scales gleaming under the station's lights. She looked older than she had 5 years ago, worn down by crisis and change. The two groups met in the central chamber, designed to accommodate the different environmental needs of all attending species. Min Jun noticed immediately that the seating was arranged in a circle, with no head position. It was a small detail, but an important one. Speaker Veshitala spoke first. Her voice carried the weight of formal ceremony, but also something else. Humility, perhaps, or at least the beginning of it. We gather here to mark a new chapter in galactic history. The Council acknowledges that our treatment of humanity was based on fear rather than wisdom. We saw rapid change and called it dangerous. We saw questions and called them threatening. We were wrong. She paused, and Min Jun saw genuine emotion in her expression. The Callian people owe humanity a debt that can never be fully repaid. You saved millions of our lives when you had every reason to let us suffer. That act of compassion has taught us more about your species than 30 years of diplomatic contact ever could. Min Jun stood to respond. He had rehearsed his words many times, but now that the moment had arrived, he found himself speaking from the heart instead. Humanity did not save the Callian to prove a point or to win a political victory. We did it because watching people suffer when we could help was unbearable to us. That is not a unique human trait. I believe every species in this room shares that basic compassion. The difference is that we were forced by isolation to remember it, to place it above politics and pride. He looked around the circle, meeting eyes, sensors, and other forms of perception. 5 years ago, the Council told us we were not ready to be part of galactic civilization. You were right, but not in the way you thought. We were not ready because we were trying too hard to fit into your systems, to follow your rules, to become what you wanted us to be. The ban forced us to find our own way. And in doing so, we discovered something important. The galaxy does not need one way of doing things. It needs many ways. Ambassador Kalira of the Varani stood next, her small stature not diminishing the power of her words. The compact was born from rejection, but it grew through acceptance. Every species here has felt dismissed, controlled, or underestimated by the old power structures. Together, we have built something based on mutual respect rather than hierarchy. Zixith, the Tokai minister, added his perspective. The Council served the galaxy well for thousands of years. We do not seek to destroy what you built, but civilization must evolve. The compact represents that evolution. We can coexist. We can even cooperate, but we will not submit. The discussions continued for 3 days. There were disagreements, moments of tension, old grievances that surfaced and had to be addressed. But there was also progress. On the second day, a formal agreement was reached. The Council and the Compact would exist as separate but equal organizations. Species could choose to belong to one, both, or neither. Trade would flow freely between both systems. Disputes would be resolved through neutral arbitration rather than force. It was not perfect unity, but it was functional coexistence. For now, that was enough. On the final day, something unexpected happened. A young Callian diplomat named Tresh-An requested permission to speak. She was not part of the senior leadership, but Speaker Veshtala granted her request. Tresh-An stood nervously before the assembly. I was a medical student when the plague hit. I watched my professors try everything, every advanced technique, every sophisticated approach. Nothing worked. Then we received the human protocols, and they seemed too simple, too basic. We almost dismissed them. She looked directly at Dr. Choi. But the simple approach worked. It worked because it addressed the fundamentals that we had forgotten in our pursuit of advancement. I have spent the last month studying human medical techniques, and I am amazed by how much we have lost sight of in our sophistication. She turned to address the entire assembly. I think that is the lesson here. The council became so focused on maintaining order and control that we forgot why we came together in the first place. We forgot that cooperation works best when everyone has a voice, not when one group makes all the decisions. Speaker Veshtala looked at her young colleague with something like pride. Your generation will build the future, Treshan. What you have learned, we should all remember. As the summit concluded, Minjun found himself in an unexpected private conversation with Speaker Veshtala. They stood together looking out at the stars through the observation port. I owe you a personal apology, Veshtala said quietly. 5 years ago, I presided over your exile with certainty that we were doing the right thing. I was arrogant. I thought age and experience made us wiser than younger species, but wisdom is not the same as age. Minjun considered his response carefully. I was angry for a long time. I thought the ban was the worst thing that could happen to humanity. But now I wonder if it was the best thing. We were so eager to be accepted that we were losing ourselves trying to fit in. The ban forced us to stand on our own, to find our own strength. A diplomatic way of saying that we did you a favor by exiling you, Veshtala said with dry humor. Minjun smiled. Not exactly. You caused real suffering. People died because they could not access medical supplies. Colonies struggled. Families were separated. That pain was real, and I do not forget it. But from that pain, we grew stronger. We learned who we really are. And who are you? Veshtala asked. What did you learn about humanity? Minjun thought about the question. He thought about the desperate early years, the innovation born from necessity, the decision to help the Varani despite the risk, the medical teams who worked to save Kallian lives without hesitation. We learned that we are at our best when we are challenged. We learned that we value freedom more than safety. We learned that we would rather build something new than conform to something old. And most importantly, we learned that being human means choosing compassion even when it would be easier to choose revenge. Veshtala was quiet for a long moment. The council feared that humanity would conquer the galaxy. We saw your expansion, your ambition, your military capabilities, and we assumed you would become a threat. And now? Minjun asked. Now I think we feared the wrong thing. You are not conquering the galaxy. You are changing it. You are showing other species that there are alternatives to the way things have always been done. That is more dangerous to the Council's power than any military could be. She looked at him directly. But it is the kind of danger the galaxy needs. We became stagnant in our certainty. The Compact, led by humans but including so many others, is breaking that stagnation. I find that I am grateful, even though it diminishes my own people's influence. The summit ended with a formal ceremony. Representatives from both Council and Compact signed the Unity Accords, establishing the framework for their coexistence. Minjun stood with his team as the documents were finalized. Dr. Choi leaned close and whispered, "We did it. We changed everything." "We started the change," Minjun corrected. "This is just the beginning." Captain Sung-Ho Kim asked the question they were all thinking. What happens next? Now that we have peace, what do we do? Minjun looked around the chamber at the dozens of species, at the council members who had once banned humanity, and the compact members who had joined them in exile, all working together to build something new. Now we prove that the compact way works. We show that cooperation beats control, that diversity beats conformity, that freedom beats security. We build a civilization that makes the band look like the best thing that ever happened to us." As they prepared to leave Unity Point, Min Jun received a message from Earth. It was from a group of young people who had been children when the ban was issued. They had grown up in isolated human space, had never experienced the galaxy before the compact. Their message was simple. "Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for showing us that being rejected does not mean being defeated. We are proud to be human." Minjun felt emotion tighten his throat. That was what it had all been for. Not revenge, not political victory, not even justice. It was for the next generation, to give them a galaxy where they could be themselves without apology. He looked at Earth in the distance, at the human colonies scattered across nearby systems, at the compact ships from a dozen species traveling together in peace. 5 years ago, the Council had banned humanity, thinking they were removing a problem. Instead, they had created something they never anticipated. They had forced humanity to discover its own strength. They had pushed them to build alliances based on genuine partnership rather than political convenience. They had intended to isolate humanity, but had instead isolated themselves from the change the galaxy needed. The ban had been meant as punishment. It had become liberation. And now, as the resilience carried Min Jun and his team back toward Earth, he allowed himself to feel something he had not felt in 5 years. Not triumph, not vindication, but something simpler and more profound. Hope. The galaxy had a long way to go. There would be challenges ahead, disagreements between Council and Compact, species that resisted change, conflicts that would need resolution. But for the first time since the ban, Min Jun believed that the future was not something to fear. "Director Park?" Dr. Choi interrupted his thoughts. "What are you thinking about?" Min Jun smiled. "I am thinking that they tried to break us by casting us out. Instead, they gave us the freedom to become something better. I am thinking that history will look back at the ban not as humanity's darkest moment, but as our beginning." "The beginning of what?" Captain Sung-Ho Kim asked. Min Jun looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy full of potential and possibility. "The beginning of everything!" The resilience carried them home, but home was different now. It was not just Earth, not just human colonies. Home was the compact, the alliance of species who had chosen to stand together. Home was the promise that no one would face exile alone again. The galaxy had tried to ban humanity. Instead, humanity had transformed the galaxy. And that, Min Jun thought, was the most human thing of all.